Hey everyone, welcome back to Cells to Cell. My name is Heem. This is Nick, and for today's episode, we're actually getting to know Nick. We're gonna ask him a few questions about his background, everything, and so Nick, what's
Yeah,
up?
nothing much. Yeah, we're just doing this kind of just like as a little break for everybody. We've gone kind of deep into the science lately, and we went over ourselves kind of in like some of our background a little bit in the first episode, but that's really long. So we just kind of want to cut it down a little bit. If anybody is interested, we just thought that this would kind of be fun and just kind of switch up the content a little bit. So, yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so first things first, Nick, what's your background? Where are you from? Your high school, maybe
Yeah.
your high school, your college for sure, what you majored in, what your interests are, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, no, I'm from Cincinnati, the Cincinnati area. I'm really from Northern Kentucky, from Cold Spring, Alexandria area. If anybody knows where or what that is. I went to high school at a small Catholic high school called Newport Central Catholic. It's literally almost like right on the northern tip of Campbell County, which is in Northern Kentucky. And it was great. I played four sports throughout high school. That's where I really fell in love with science with, my second year chemistry classes. My biology teacher, my anatomy and physiology teacher, Beth Sketch, she was great and she really inspired a lot of me and my classmates to go into health fields. A lot of my classmates are, aspiring to be physicians or they're doing a lot of like ecology work. And it's super cool to see one of my friends getting her PhD at Ohio State in pharmaceutical research, which is absolutely incredible to take. Miss Sketch took a class of 20 kids, and I'd say of the 20 kids, at least, 13 of them stayed in the health field. So, it was a great little school where, you got a lot of one-on-one time, got to know a lot of the students, got to know a lot of the teachers. I still talk to a lot of my teachers today, just because, once you're out, you're always like, we always talk about how we're family and it's a tradition there, so we always kind of stay in touch. But I graduated in 2018, and I immediately went to Thomas More University, which is also in Northern Kentucky. It's probably 15 minutes away from my high school.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went there, it was a small D3 Catholic college, and when I left, it was a D2 university. So I was there when there was a lot of change, but it was also a very small feel. My biggest class was my freshman Gen Bio class, and we had two sections of 30 people. And I know when you talk to people, I had friends, so a lot of my friends went to like UK who were taking Gen Bio and Gen Chem, and they, people went to Louisville, and their lectures were 250, 500 people, and I got a lot of one-on-one time with my teachers, a lot of really good interactive lab time, and that's again where I just started falling in love with biology. I've always had a soft spot in my heart for chemistry. I was one class away. I was 4 credit hours away from a chemistry minor, but I didn't want to take P-Chem or ecology or environmental chemistry. I was already taking 2 semesters or 2 labs in my last semester, and I didn't want to tack on a third lab to get that hour. But no, so at Thomas More, I studied biology, got a concentration in cellular and molecular biology, and I went kind of on the other side of the path, and I got a minor in Spanish.
Oh, nice.
Which I loved. I wish I got to use it more. I wish I got to practice more. It's really rusty, especially taking Spanish through COVID is really hard.
Oh, yeah.
So, no, but I love Thomas More. Coming here to Case, which I'll get into in a few minutes, but, coming to Case and seeing just like the vast differences between facilities and like faculty, it's crazy. And while Case is great, I will always look back fondly on my college experience getting my undergrad, because I don't know where else you could really go to get a one-on-one feel. Like we were able to get our teachers like personal phone numbers. Like if we had any problems, like outside of class, late at night, if there was an issue or something came up, like you didn't have to wait for them to shoot you back an email in the morning. Like you could just send them a text and they would see it. And like that was something that was really, really nice. And, you know, and while it was a small school, the academics were still very strict. And, you know, we were very rigorous in our work. And we had a lot of teachers who expected a lot from us, especially, you know, being in a class of 20, 15 people, they're going to know your face, they're going to know your name. So, you know, you're held accountable. They know what grade you have, they know how you're doing, they know if you're asking questions, they know if you're participating. And that's something that I've carried on here at Case to make sure that I'm still participating, even though I'm in the same size classes. You know, it can be intimidating when you have a PhD who has hundreds of papers out and, you know, has, you know, 3 spin-off businesses and has just these unbelievable achievements. And you're just sitting there like, I don't know if I can ask this question because I don't want to sound stupid.
Oh, I know.
But going to Thomas More, you know, no question's a bad question. You might get laughed at a little bit by your classmates, but, you know, you're never afraid to fire off a question, and, you know, you just got really comfortable. And then I played golf in college.
Oh, nice.
I loved that. That was a lot of fun. It was nice to kind of get away. But, yeah, I have a lot of interests that are away from school, too, but...
So, when did you graduate undergrad? What year was that?
2022. I graduated in May.
So you came right out of undergrad, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And was COVID your sophomore?
COVID hit. I remember exactly what was happening. We were on spring break, and I was at the driving range with my buddy, and I get an email, and it was like, we're extending spring break a week. And, you know, I had already known about COVID before, like, everybody was watching the news at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember seeing, like, oh, it got extended a week. And then spring break got extended another week. And then everybody's online. No one comes home. I was in a dorm. They moved us out of the dorms so fast.
Mm-hmm.
So fast. It was ridiculous. And, I mean, we had international students that didn't know what to do, and they were quarantined in dorms. And people were, you know, the quarantine protocol was, like, if you lived in the dorms and you got COVID, you would go into, like, a hotel for quarantine. Like, it was so weird.
That's insane.
But no, so COVID hit during my spring break of my sophomore year.
So then sophomore year,
and then sophomore year, all of junior year, and some of the beginning of my senior year. We were still we were wearing masks through Christmas of 2021. It was it was really a different time. I mean, at that point, think about junior year as a biology major. When I went into college, I wanted to be a doctor. You know, what do you take your junior year? You take your MCAT. And I learned a lot about myself and my work ethic, and the fact that I didn't pass the MCAT.
Same.
You know, it doesn't like. I look back on it and I laugh, but I remember just being so stressed out and just so high strung on trying to get a good score, and I didn't get a good score. And, you know, it kind of left me in no man's land. Like, what do I do? Mm-hmm. And then I started doing some independent research and athletic training with my buddy, and we ran a fun pilot study, and we didn't, like, get in trouble, but we weren't looked great upon because we might have used all of the supplies in the lab and didn't have any money to pay it back. But, you know, that experience led me to think, you know, maybe, like, entrepreneurship would be really cool. And I've always had a love for, like, cells. I've always loved biology and chemistry. And then regenerative medicine entrepreneurship hit my inbox one morning.
Know.
I saw it after I got out of the shower. And I was like, this looks... like, it was, like, one of those big mass emails that they sent out to people who have taken the MCAT through AMCAS is what it is. And I saw that. I was like, that looks really cool. And at that point, I'll be honest, I'd never heard of Case Western before.
Bro, I'm telling you, when someone said Case Western, I couldn't even picture a city that it was in. I was like, is that East Coast, West Coast?
Yeah,
what is Case Western? What is Case Western Reserve? Like, what is that name even?
I had no idea. And then when I interviewed, and then my interview went great, and Dr. Bonfield was awesome, and, you know, Ms. Prestige was great. And then, you know, I got in, and I was doing the application process, and I was telling people that I got accepted. And they would look at me, and they'd be like, you got into Case Western Reserve? And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. Like, I just like the program. Yeah. And that is just, I feel like that's like kind of like a wholesome story. Like so many people will reach to go to like the best school to get the best education, and like I just found my way in a good school because I was a good student and I found something I was interested in, and it's like probably one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life to come up here. So
I agree with you.
yeah, I don't even remember what the original question was, but
No, it was just like it was about COVID, but you answered
Yeah.
my next question too.
oh,
You have a tendency of knowing what's next, dude. You have
kind of.
he has this vision, dude. He knows what's next.
Kind of.
But yeah, I was gonna ask. So, how did you find Case Western? And Nick found Case Western because he didn't do well on the MCAT, and once you take the MCAT, AMCAS puts you in some
Yeah.
loop where they send you emails and everything about opportunities for after the MCAT. Sorry, guys, we
Yeah.
had technical difficulties, but now we're back. So we were basically talking about medical school and how the AMCAS program, they will send out emails for a lot of opportunities across the country that are medical related for us students who took the MCAT and don't want to go to medical school.
Yeah.
And so Nick applied to Case Western, found this program, and what did you know about regenerative medicine before you came in? Like the word regenerative medicine, what did you think that was?
I knew it was stem cells, but there was never like explicitly a time in undergrad where like we had like a lecture like on regenerative medicine. But I've heard of iPSCs. I had heard of like embryonic stem cells, obviously. But coming here and learning about all the different types of all the different types of stem cells and like progenitor cells. Like, I mean, I knew about like hematopoietic stem cells, right? Because in anatomy, I remember that we learned you get a new like system of blood like every 90 to 120 days, which is like really cool, and like that's something that kind of stuck with me, just like a fun fact. So there's like where does that come from? It has to come from stem cells. But coming up here and learning about like mesenchymal stem cells or mesenchymal stem cells, I'd heard of them, but I never was able to like learn them in depth. So coming up here and really getting a deep dive insight, not only on stem cells, but on all of these cell therapies and all of these different ways of manufacturing them and how to take them from bench to bedside. It's just been crazy. It's just been crazy.
So now, your background in biology, how helpful has that been? Because in understanding all this new information, can you did you think that if you had a chemistry background, it would have been more or less helpful than having biology?
Oh, I think the biology is ridiculously helpful.
Yeah.
I really do. Because chemistry is cool because you can talk about how, proteins and enzymes and all this kind of stuff like interact at like the atomic level. And that's great. Like that's awesome. It's important to understand what an alcohol group does or like what an OH group does to a molecule, right? And, the chemistry part is why I love like medicine. And like I just love learning about medicines. But the regenerative medicine part where it's the combination of all of these cells and all of this different manipulation almost, it's just mind-blowing. And I feel like if I didn't have a background in biology, I wouldn't be as interested. And two, I definitely wouldn't understand as much because, I come from a cellular and molecular biology background. I took molecular genetics, I took virology, I took cell biology, and I took biochemistry. See, there's some of the chemistry mix. And, some of those I took for the MCAT, and some of those I took because I had to take them. But at the same time, like, having that background, those 4 classes, has, like, definitely helped. Like, today in lecture, we had somebody come in and talk about CAR T cells, which is something that we're going to talk about on this podcast eventually. CAR Ts and natural killer cells and using them to fight cancer. And, you hear cells and you're like, oh, like the cells are going, and it has very little to do with the cells. It's all about how you place all these different surface protein markers and understanding how the immune system works and how the 3-step immune system works. And not having a background in biology, I would have been so lost today.
Seriously.
And now I can sit there and not only can I feel confident that I understand the information a little bit. I'm not saying I understand everything to what this expert was saying. But, I'm comfortable to sit there rather than being confused for, an hour and 45 minutes to being able to think about everything critically and actually ask intelligent questions.
Only persons with official case, Cleveland Institute of Music, or Cleveland Institute of Art
That's
IDs
awful.
may remain in the building.
Sorry about that again.
Yeah, another technical difficulty. This time, not our fault. But as I was saying, if I didn't have that background in biology, I definitely would feel lost. And now I'm actually able to have intelligent conversations. I'm able to actually, ask questions and get hopefully the right answers that will, further my knowledge. And, the more knowledge I get, the more I feel satisfied. But at the same time, I'm not. I want to just keep learning. I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. And how has Case Western been for you in terms of the location? Cleveland is a city. It is a city.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So I grew up right by Cincinnati. I worked in downtown. I worked basically in downtown. So I've gotten a pretty good taste of Cincinnati. People from Cincinnati won't understand the pun there. But Cleveland's different. Cleveland's cold, and it's a different kind of cold.
Right next to the lake, bro.
Right next to the lake. And I'd never seen a Great Lake before I came up here, so I was like, that looks like an ocean. And I sound like an idiot saying that, but I've never seen a Great Lake before. But comparing it, like I said, I went to a small, now D2 university, Catholic. When I tell you, they're building a business building right now. But when I tell you that when I went there, we had one building on campus, beside one school building. We had 5 dorms, and we had something called the Saint Center, which is like a community center, and a gym. We had one school building. So here at Case, it's buildings for research and buildings for engineering and everything. We had floors.
I see.
We had floors. So the size is crazy. The size is absolutely insane. And the campus is beautiful. It's in the heart of what's called University Circle. I live right by Little Italy, which I love. Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of great restaurants. It's a really diverse area. You get to see and meet a lot of really cool people. And, the city's really cool. I got to go to the Yankees versus Guardians playoff game, the 4th playoff game. And I got to go to the Bengals Cleveland Browns game, which was not fun because we lost really bad. But yeah, the city's really cool. There's a lot of cool places to go and that I haven't been yet. But in other words, yes, Case has treated me really well, and it's a really cool experience. I've only been up here for a couple months, but I definitely look forward to staying for the next year and a half. I'm not ready to move home. I don't have any homesickness, so
that's awesome.
I must be staying busy.
Yeah. Well,
anything else?
Do you have anything you want to tell the audience about your background, who you are, what
you're
doing at Case? Okay, I guess out of regenerative medicine, what's something you found the coolest? Because regenerative medicine has a ton of things. There's stem cells, there's tissue engineering, there's immunotherapy, there's gene therapy, there's nanoparticles and all of that. So so you came in knowing what stem cells are, kind of?
Yeah.
Do you still think stem cells are as cool as you knew, or do you think there's something that Case has taught you that you think has taken up your mind space?
Well, I knew what stem cells were, but I had no idea the depth that they go into.
Yeah.
Right now I work in a lab, and we're looking at I work in the Comprehensive Cancer Research Center in the Wolstein building, which is one of the newer research buildings here on Case. And I work in a lab that's very focused on hematopoiesis and hematopoietic stem cells. Mm-hmm. That's really cool. The studies that I'll eventually be a part of after my training, and the studies that are currently going on with my PI, Dr. Desai, and his right-hand woman, Brittany, who is awesome. The stuff that they do is absolutely insane. It's a small lab, and it's a very successful lab. But I don't know, the coolest thing that I probably learned is like all the mesenchymal stem cell stuff. And not in vitro, but in vivo. Like how they actually like manage the human body, like inside the human body. Like it's cool to grow them on plastic. They lose all their markers and we can do whatever. That's cool. But they always revert back into, like we talked about, like the parasites that they are. They wrap around blood vessels. They just monitor the body, and they, you know, I feel like every day stem cells are just found to be more and more and more important in the body.
Definitely.
Really do in their stemness. So, but if I had to say one thing, if there are any students watching, which I don't know, we don't get too many views, but that's okay. We have a lot of fun doing this. But I would say, don't make this mistake that I made and just pigeonhole yourself for like 3 years. Because I was like, doctor, like through and through. If I'm not a doctor, I'm a failure.
Oh yeah.
All this kind of stuff. And now, you know, I failed, whatever. But if you do pick yourself back up, and you never know what's going to be on the other side of like the next door. One door closes and another one opens. That's what everybody always says.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't like bragging, but like now I'm studying at the National Center of Regenerative Medicine. Like this is like the place. Dr. Gerson, who is now the dean of the medical school and who has had plenty of clinical and, you know, research success. Like a month ago, President Joe Biden gave a speech, and Dr. Gerson was there and shook his hand and gave a speech in front of the president. That's the type of caliber that we're working with. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, this place is like the real deal.
This place is the real deal.
So just because one door closes, another one's going to open. And there's a lot of opportunities, especially in biology. You don't have to go get a lab or a field job. You don't have to. There are so many cool things.
We're going to get into the regulation side of things in the next few episodes.
Yeah.
But like,
you can
stay involved.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, if you have an interest in business, like if you're like, biology's cool, but like, I want to like, you know, work with money and work with people and worry about customers. There's sales teams. You can be a sales rep. You can go into entrepreneurship stuff. You can go create your own thing. That's so possible, and the space is just blooming right now. There are so many people doing that, and there's so many opportunities. And in all kinds of fields, there are just people ready to, I mean, when I say this, I don't mean it literally, but like throw money at you to do your idea. Like people are so interested in how can we get to the next step in science and as humanity. And, you know, I'm 22 years old, and it's weird to think that, you know, maybe I'm part of that next step.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So are you. So is everybody in our classes, and
yeah,
everybody who's studying science. So keep studying. Put in the comments what is the powerhouse of the cell and why. I don't care if you watch Friends. You got to tell me why.
Yeah.
But no one's gonna do that.
That's funny.
It's okay though. But all right, that's all I got.
Same here.
So all right.
Hopefully you guys are inspired by Nick's story. He wanted to be a doctor, and now he's gonna do things that help doctors. You know, he's gonna be the guy that helps doctors. So
There are so many people that have gone through so much more than me. Don't think that I'm special. I just failed the MCAT. Who cares?
Yeah.
Look at where I am now. I'm having fun, learning a lot of new stuff. So
true.
All right, you got anything else?
That's all.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, guys. That's Heem. I'm Nick, and this has been Cells to Cell. Thanks for watching, guys.
See you guys.